Most people think that coffee is either a miracle drink or a hormonal disaster. You hear things like coffee spikes cortisol, coffee ruins your hormones, or coffee blocks your muscle growth. But you also hear things like coffee burns fat, coffee improves focus, coffee is full of antioxidants. So, which one is true? So today I'm going to break down exactly what coffee does to your body, your hormones, your performance, and your health without fear, without hype or extremes. For the ones who are new to my channel, I'm Dr. Neš Jocic, former bodybuilding champion. I have been in bodybuilding over 40 years and competed 46 times, winning 17 titles. I have also personally coached over 3,500 clients and help them to get in the best shape of their lives. In the meantime, I have published 12 ebooks which are fully loaded about everything you always wanted to know about bodybuilding. So if you want to expand your knowledge about muscle growth, training splits, nutrition, fat loss, lifestyle change, and much more, simply click in that link below in the comments and you can access my ebooks. Coffee's main active ingredient is actually caffeine, which affects your nervous system. So caffeine blocks a chemical in the brain called adenosine, and adenosine is actually what makes you feel tired. So coffee doesn't give you energy. Coffee simply removes the brake pedal from your brain, and this is why after coffee, you feel usually more awake, you are more alert, you are more focused, more motivated to move. But caffeine doesn't just do that to the brain. It also activates your stress response system, and in a control and short-term way. So this is actually where cortisol comes in, because a lot of people always freak out when cortisol is mentioned, and obviously they jump and they said, a lot of people actually commented on my channel already, yes, coffee, but coffee raises cortisol. Cortisol is going to eat your muscles. So, we have to really clarify this once forever. Coffee does raise cortisol, this is true, but this is something that most people misunderstand when it comes to coffee and cortisol. Caffeine stimulates your nervous system and your body releases adrenaline. Now, when adrenaline goes up, cortisol goes up. People panic when they hear that, but in reality, you need to understand that cortisol occurs naturally. It's highest in the morning. So when you wake up in the morning, cortisol is highest. Coffee or no coffee doesn't matter. This is simply the natural process during which you are awakening, you're getting ready to move, to act, to focus, and for all these things, cortisol is necessary. But cortisol then drops during the day. Also, cortisol is spiked during workouts. So when you're working out, also when you're under stress, when you're fasting, and during intense focusing. So all these different actions basically stimulate production of cortisol. So cortisol is not a bad hormone, it's simply necessary and is normal for energy mobilization. So this is energy mobilizing hormone. So there's nothing wrong with it. Now, studies show that coffee can raise insulin 30 to 40% above baseline, especially in people who don't drink coffee and take caffeine all day. So if you are drinking coffee regularly, this spike of cortisol is going to be even less. This sounds big, right? But you need to realize that your cortisol already changes much more naturally every day, much more than a cup of coffee can raise. So coffee-induced cortisol raises temporary, so it just goes up and then goes down, is still within normal physiological range, and is not the same as when your cortisol is chronically elevated. So this is very important to understand. I talk about it in my video on cortisol. What is the problem with cortisol is when cortisol is chronically elevated. So when you drink coffee, your cortisol may be elevated for another 60 minutes. but then it drops down. And this is very different when your cortisol is chronically elevated because of poor sleep, for example. If you don't sleep enough, if your sleep is not good, your cortisol will constantly be elevated, much, much higher than the base level. Also, emotional stress. When you are stressed emotionally, your cortisol will be much, much higher. It will be chronically elevated if you're always stressed. Another factor that causes high levels of insulin chronically is overtraining. So if you're training, as I mentioned in so many videos, with wrong intensity, which I like to call wrong intensity, you like to call it high intensity, but there is intensity, about real intensity, that I talk about in my video, which is dedicated exactly only about intensity. So go check it out and you will understand what I call intensity. So when you train with wrong intensity, meaning you are overtraining, you will be chronically stressed. This is what is happening to so many people, especially people who are constantly trying to train to failure. Every set, every session. On top of that, they add some so-called super intense techniques like force reps, negatives, supersets, 3 sets. They are just doing junk volume and they are overtraining themselves, meaning they are pumping cortisol in huge amounts, and that stays elevated throughout the day, during the night as well. So you have to understand that overtraining is critical for cortisol control. You should be training enough, not too much. And another factor which is directly related to chronically elevated cortisol is actually calorie deprivation, or when you eat very little in order to burn fat, because you think that eating less is going to make you burn more fat, but this is not true. This is just going to increase cortisol, and people who actually eat less or little, they pile on fat because of cortisol and they lose muscle tissue. Also, if you do cardio, so-called cardio, on a daily basis, you will be pumping cortisol and you will enter that terrible state of chronically elevated cortisol. So again, there is the video on cardio, which I explain what you should do, what you shouldn't do, and many other things that will actually help you to keep your cortisol normal. So all these activities that I just mentioned, they will keep cortisol high for hours and for days. Coffee doesn't do that on its own. So coffee does raise insulin, but not as much, and only temporary, only for up to 60 minutes. Now, when it comes to coffee being a diuretic, a lot of people are saying that, coffee is gonna take minerals out of your body, is gonna deprive you of essential minerals like sodium and potassium, and coffee is so bad for you. So if you drink coffee, immediately after that you need to take electrolytes. And you hear that on internet all the time, but this is all nonsense, right? And I will explain to you why is that nonsense, why these extremes are growing like mushrooms all around the internet. Because people are simply trying to generate more interest by creating all these hypes and creating something which is extraordinary. And if you take this, and if you take this supplement or this drink, you will immediately improve this. But if you stop drinking coffee altogether, you're just going to improve. By all means, you're going to start growing, burning body fat, you're going to be healthy, always awake. Well, absolute nonsense. So stop believing in hypes, and let's break this down correctly. Yes, coffee is a diuretic, but it's a very, very mild diuretic. So this also applies to people who don't regularly drink coffee. So if you don't drink coffee and you have a cup of coffee, you may experience need to go to the toilet. You will accept urine, but this is not going to make you dehydrated, simply because average cup of coffee contains about 80 to 100 grams of milligrams of caffeine, and that will cause urine output for about 100 to 200 milliliters of extra urine, right? But cup of coffee is 200 milliliters or more, 250 milliliters of water. So what you have put in your body is going to come out of your body. So you're not going to get dehydrated, right? Again, this is just another myth. Coffee is a diuretic and it's going to make you dehydrated. No, it's not. That water that is in the cup of coffee, probably half of it will go out in the worst scenario, the same amount of water, which is 240 mils, that will go out. So you lose absolutely nothing. Now, what about sodium and potassium? Yes, coffee will exert small amounts of sodium and potassium, and for a non-tolerant person, somebody who is not drinking coffee at all, this amount of exerted sodium will be anywhere from 20 to 40 milligrams, and potassium anywhere from 40 to 80 milligrams. Right? So if you are drinking coffee regularly, let's say you have 3 cups every day, this will be even less exertion of sodium and potassium. So once again, for non-tolerant person, exertion of sodium will be 20 to 40 milligrams and exertion of potassium 40 to 80 milligrams. Now, your daily needs for sodium is 1,500 to 2,300 milligrams. So you see how much you need and how much you're going to lose. You're going to lose 20 to 40 milligrams, but your daily requirement is anywhere from 1,500 to 2,300 milligrams. In people who are training regularly 4 or 5 sessions per day, this goes up to 4,000 to 5,000 milligrams of sodium. So what you lose from coffee is almost nothing, is so negligible. You should not worry about it at all. So your daily requirement for potassium is about between 2,600 and 3,500 milligrams. So if you lose 40 to 80 milligrams, it's not going to have absolutely any impact on you. Now, what do you do to offset this? So you hear people often saying, "Oh, before you this euphoria about electrolytes in the morning, salt, this and that. Yes, it's very important for you, but it has nothing to do with the coffee, because you don't have to drink electrolytes before your coffee or immediately after your coffee, because somebody inserted this panic button in your brain, convincing you that if you drink coffee, you're going to lose all your sodium and potassium. And this is absolutely not going to happen. So if you just eat normal amount of sodium and potassium every day, you don't have to worry at all about losing some marginal, really minimal amounts of sodium and potassium, simply because you're going to have enough sodium. You need anywhere from 3 to 5 grams of sodium per day, and this is equivalent of 7 to 12 grams of salt. So ask yourself, are you eating enough salt? And for people who exercise, they may even need more. So in order to cover 3 to 5 grams, which is 3,000 to 5,000 milligrams of sodium per day, you need to eat anywhere from 7 to 12 grams of salt. So if you are not ingesting as much salt, you may experience sodium deficiency, which is not going to be related to coffee. It's going to be related to low amount of sodium that you basically take every day. So think about it. Salt is very important for you. So a practical takeaway is that coffee can increase urination slightly, but for regular drinkers, it doesn't cause any significant dehydration or dangerous electrolyte loss, as long as you drink fluids and eat normally, and especially if you're having enough salt in your diet. I know that people have been misled and deluded about the bad effect of salt on you, but this is completely wrong, and people who don't eat salt or very little salt will experience a lot of bad consequences due to the lack of sodium and automatically potassium, because sodium and potassium, they're linked. When you lose sodium, you lose potassium. So if you don't eat enough sodium, you won't be able to keep enough potassium in your body. So think about it carefully. It's very important, but coffee has nothing to do with it, at least nothing significant. Now, does coffee hurt your muscle growth? This is something that you probably want to know. And the simple answer and short answer is no, not even a little bit. So if you drink 1 to 3 cups of coffee a day, this will have absolutely no impact. You're not going to lose muscles because of coffee, because you're going to produce very little extra cortisol, and this is not going to impact you at all. So if you drink 10, 15 cups of coffee, then we're talking about a different situation, but I'm talking about a normal consumption of coffee. So what is interesting is that coffee can actually increase your athletic performance and muscle growth simply because of stimulating activity that coffee produces and causes on you. So coffee can increase the strength output, and also can improve endurance. It can reduce how hard a set feels, and it can help you push closer to failure. So over time, this can benefit you in more muscle growth. And the reasons for that is that the coffee is studied profoundly, probably the most studied compound substance for performance enhancers is caffeine. So caffeine has been used in all pre-workouts, for example, in order to give you that boost. So boost after boost, obviously on a daily basis, 4 or 5 times per week, over a period of months, it can really help you when it accumulates. All these effects, when they accumulate, your training will be a little bit better, but over the period of time, that may result in increased muscle mass. So this is how coffee itself, not necessarily pre-workouts, but coffee, because it contains caffeine, can help you improve your workouts. Now, muscle loss becomes a problem when your cortisol is chronically high. And this is caused most of the time by severe lack of sleep, chronic stress, aggressive dieting, and again, overtraining. So if you are chronically overtrained, if you're dieting intensely on a low amount of calories and very little food, if you're chronically stressed, if you can't sleep much, then coffee can make all these things even worse. But you are already in very bad situation of chronically elevated cortisol, so coffee will just add a little bit more on top of that. In that scenario, it doesn't help. But if you eat healthily, if you're training with right intensity, you're not overtraining, if you're not doing so-called cardio or overdoing it, if you're not chronically stressed and you sleep properly, obviously coffee will rather help you than take away from your workouts. Now, when it comes to coffee and fat burn, it's interesting that coffee increases adrenaline. So that signals the body to release stored fat into bloodstream for energy. This is what adrenaline does. So coffee can slightly increase your metabolic rate and increase fat used during exercise. So this is scientifically proven. And again, let me be honest with you, this is true, but this is also a small boost. It's not a magical fat loss. You know, there are more important things for fat loss. You need to train properly. You need to eat healthy properly, so to stimulate fat burn and to stop fat accumulation by increasing your insulin sensitivity. But coffee can contribute a little bit to that as well. So I'm just telling you what coffee does, but this is not a miracle effect. If you drink coffee, you're going to burn fat and you're going to get in great shape. Not necessarily, not at all. But coffee will be just a little aid to that process, which is mainly achieved via proper training and proper dieting. Now I want to remind you that coffee is not just caffeine. There are other things in coffee which are very, very important, and they are plant compounds. So number one is chlorogenic acid. This compound is a mild vasodilator, and it helps arterial health, improves nitric oxide availability. It reduces oxidative stress and also protects nitric oxide from being destroyed. So chlorogenic acid is very, very effective when it comes to that, and this is one of the compounds, important compounds in coffee. Also, it helps regulate blood sugar and reduce inflammation. And in overall, chlorogenic acid found in coffee actually supports your heart health. So this is one of the reasons why coffee is linked with low risk of type 2 diabetes. Also, coffee contains polyphenols, and this is some of the most powerful antioxidants. And polyphenols, they reduce, because they're antioxidants, they reduce oxidative stress, they protect cells and support long-term cardiovascular and brain health. So moderate coffee intake may actually be protective, not harmful. So this is also scientifically proven. These are facts. On top of that, your liver can also benefit from coffee. because research has shown that coffee intake is lowered with lower risk of fatty liver disease, liver fibrosis, cirrhosis, and also liver cancer. So coffee even appears to help lower liver enzymes level in some people. And this is a major health benefit of people, for people which we really rarely talk about. So we are always focused on caffeine and cortisol ratio, but we don't talk about health benefits for liver. We don't talk about polyphenols, and also we don't talk about chlorogenic acids. And these are very, very powerful compounds, and they are very helpful. So this is where coffee can help. So now when coffee becomes a problem when you drink too much, and you're not using it as a tool, but you're just using it as a crutch. Problem appear when somebody drinks coffee all day, when the same person sleeps only 5-6 hours a day. On top of that, the person is training very hard, diets very aggressively with very little food, and has high life stress. So all these circumstances plus 6, 7, 8 cups of coffee a day, coffee is not really beneficial in this lifestyle, in this environment. Also, it's important that caffeine can reduce deep sleep. So if you drink just before you go to sleep, that may be a problem. And poor sleep will affect testosterone recovery, muscle growth, fat loss. So you want to sleep, as I mentioned in other videos, is very important. And drinking before you go to bed, or maybe few hours before you go to bed, it's maybe harmful to your sleep. So you want to do that. So if you drink coffee, it's the best to drink it in the morning or maybe midday, but try to avoid it in the second part of the day. So let me give you some practical advice now, some balanced, realistic approach. First of all, let me talk about the amount. So how much coffee one should drink to stay in that more beneficial state rather than in harmful state. So 1 to 3 cups of coffee a day is the sweet spot. When it comes to timing, the best time is to drink coffee is in the morning and also before your workout. So you can help your body start the day, and also you can have a little boost because of those effects of coffee on adrenaline and cortisol, which you need before your workout. So these are the best times, morning and before the workout. You should avoid drinking coffee 6 to maybe 8 hours before bed. Is the best if you can have coffee with breakfast, for example, with food, because when you take coffee on an empty stomach, especially for people who didn't sleep enough, that can even cause some unwanted reactions. When it comes to the mindset, coffee should be used to improve your workouts and also to enhance your focusing. So if you are ready to write something or create something, coffee will help before that activity. But remember, coffee is not going to replace sleep, is not going to push through the burnout, and also coffee cannot mask chronic exhaustion. Now, the final message will be that coffee is not a hormonal disaster and is also not a miracle either. It's a performance and health tool. If it's used in moderate amounts and the right time, with good sleep and recovery, coffee can support your focus, your training performance, fat metabolism, and also long-term health. The real problem is not coffee. The real problem is when entire lifestyle keeps your stress hormones high all the time. As I mentioned, elevated cortisol levels throughout the day, from lack of sleep, overtraining, eating too little wrong food, and extra coffee on that can just elevate that a little bit more. But if it's used wisely and if it's work for you, coffee is not going to be against you. So guys, let me remind you once again that I have published 12 ebooks, and they are fully loaded with everything you always wanted to know about bodybuilding. So if you want to deepen your knowledge and expand your horizons, simply click on the link below in the comments and you can access my ebooks. I would also like you to watch this video in which I introduce my other services. These are the ways that I can personally work with you one-to-one and help you to get in the best shape of your life. Things like personalized training programs, personalized nutritional programs, telephone consultations, online coaching, and also personal training one-to-one for people who live in London. I would also like to remind you once again that I have started 90 days transformation challenge. Applications are still open, and we will start that challenge on the 1st of March. If you apply for that before the 20th of February, you will get a bonus consultation phone call from me, half an hour, so we can discuss your goals and your tactics, obviously strategies, before we start. That is only if you apply before the 20th of February. If you apply after that, the bonus is gone, but you can still apply till 28th of February. Now, if you want to know more about the details of the whole project, the whole challenge, and also ways to join and the link to join, please watch my video about 90 days transformation challenge, and you will get all this explained. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and if you did, please subscribe to my channel, like the video, share the video, and send me your comments. And until the next video, I wish you all the best.